Tonight, government wades into controversy stirred by Speaker of Parliament as he claims workers may not be paid their salaries in the next 3 months.
The information at my disposal, this is not to discourage the committee from doing their work. If something is not done within the next 3 months, government may not even be able to pay salaries.
We hear from the Finance Ministry, plus the controversy over the Commander Sugar Factory.
I was surprised hearing the president saying that by April this year, they would have started operations. Start operations with what? When we are told, or we're told, there is no raw material. But we're told that there was no raw material.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Vodafone and also by Prime Insurance. It was a bolt from the blue that has taken government and workers by surprise. I'm talking about the declaration yesterday by Speaker Alban Babwin that government may not be able to pay salaries. The Speaker dropped the bombshell shortly before he adjourned the House. Listen.
Honourable members, the information at my disposal, this is not to discourage the committee from doing their work. If something is not done within the next 3 months, government may not even be able to pay salaries. So we have to take leadership. We have to do a lot of things.
And that's all he says there. The context was just before the House, adjourned. The motion had been moved for the adjournment, and it was being seconded by the deputy minority whip. And he had asked that as they adjourn, the House should also make room to consider payments to the district assemblies as part of the government business, because it was captured but had not been dealt with. And the Speaker then takes over, and in responding to that, as he adjourned the House, then all of a sudden, out of the blue, threw him this by claiming he has it, the information he has confirms that. Let me bring in the Deputy Finance Minister on this. He is John Kumar, joins us on the telephone line right now. Mr. Kumar, thank you for your time here on Top Story.
Thank you, Evans, and greetings to your listeners.
Is the Speaker right that the next 3 months workers may not get their salaries?
Well, I wouldn't say he's right, but I would say that I see genuine concern being expressed by Speaker in the wake of government revenue measures not being able to pass as at now, and looking at the difficult international climate. We just saw yesterday that fuel prices have jumped above $100 on the world market, and Russia is attacking and invading Ukraine, and it's affecting the international climate. And all these things happening when your revenue measures are tight can develop into a difficult situation for us as a country. So I see a very genuine concern being expressed by the Honourable Speaker to be able to rally the House for us to look beyond partisanship and give higher considerations to our national interest of the people, and see how best, especially, we can all rally around the e-levy and see how we can support government to be able to meet its revenue measures. That's how I interpret Speaker's concerns.
But for workers who heard him, should they have a genuine concern that in the next 3 months they won't get their salaries?
Well, no. I believe that salaries will be paid. In fact, this year, January salary has been paid. February is just about to end. I believe that government, at the moment, we haven't seen any challenges of liquidity problems for government, and I believe that salaries will be paid. But I agree with Speaker when he says that if you look at the world climate and where we are going, and the fact that we are still not being able to ramp up our revenue measures in the 2022 budget, we could face some serious challenges. So let's all rally together as a people and resolve this problem before it gets out of hand. So the assurance is that salaries will be paid, at least not in the foreseeable future, as I know. I don't know what facts he had, but like I'm saying, we are all aware about what is happening globally. And so if you are not able to increase your domestic revenue measures and you want to rely on external sources, that's almost difficult for everybody now. And so let us look at how best we are able to raise internal revenues, especially the measures as introduced in the budget, with e-levy among the rest, so that we can position government to be able to attend to our expenditure responsibilities.
In other words, if we don't get the revenue part sorted, which includes one of the avenues is the e-levy, and with everything that's happening in the global economy, in the long run, it could have devastating impacts on the economy and the possibilities that salaries may be affected in the long run.
Well, that will be inevitable. If you don't raise enough revenues in your economy, and it means you have to go out there to borrow. In fact, if you are borrowing, it means that you are not taxing enough. What it means is that you are looking to external sources to add up to be able to meet your expenditure levels. And so if going out there to borrow too has all these issues coming up globally, we just heard about the rating agencies and their downgrade of Ghana and all that. And then we also know about this global war that is picking up with Russia attacking Ukraine and affecting the oil and energy sector. All these things can affect us. So I totally agree with Mr. Speaker that it's about time we all looked at this issue beyond partisanship. Let us look at how we can look internally to ramp up our revenue measures and position Ghana in a way that at least our workers can be rest assured that at the end of the month, critical payments can be made, critical payments for critical projects. It's not even just about salaries. Our repayment and interest obligations that we have to pay every month is also very critical for us as a country. And we are able to do all this when we have revenues measures well received. So I think it's a good call, and I genuinely support the Speaker's position that let's all do something together, together as a people, and look at how best we are able to support government in terms of its revenue measures.
The Speaker talks in the short term. He talks about 3 months. You've said that, long term, if, of course, nothing is done, it's inevitable that salaries may be one of those things affected. When you say long term, Speaker says 3 months. Long term will be how many? What's the timeline that will satisfy?
Well, I cannot put a timeline to it. But I don't foresee in the short term, as Speaker has put it, any difficulty with Ghana at the moment, except that the global environment is going. If you cannot look elsewhere for support, then you must look internally for that support. And it is about time that as a people, we began to see our own responsibility in building the country and start, changing the language and talking the language of the Republic. That what can you and I do to ensure that the programs of government can be achieved such that we don't have to look elsewhere. Yes, we welcome external support and external opportunities, but beyond that, we must understand that the key obligation to build a country is on us, is on our shoulders, just like every other country. We as citizens must look at how best we support government to raise revenues internally to build this country.
I mean, you've talked about, on the back of what has been said by the Speaker, time to, put away partisanship and deal with the threat there. Stay with me. Let's cross that political carpet now and see if, now that the Speaker has said this, based on his information, would that be a galvanizing force to get your colleagues on the other side to start playing ball and cooperating. Your friend, ranking member on the Finance Committee, Dr. Kesela Tofosin, is joining us on the telephone line right now. Dr. Forsing, so the Speaker has spoken. The Deputy Finance Minister clarifies that in the short term, they don't foresee a challenge in paying salaries, but in the long term, if nothing happens on the revenue side, it's inevitable, and the reason for some bipartisan cooperation on this, including the e-levy. Your reaction?
Evans, good evening to start with. But let me say that, Evans, the Speaker of Parliament is the number 3 man of this country. Obviously, he has access to information. I mean, government ministers or government officials get close to him and give him information that I may not be able to have. I must concede. But honestly speaking, I have a concern. My concern is the fact that this government seems to use e-levy, thinking that e-levy will be the panacea of all the problems that we have in the country. What I foresee is that, yes, we may have some genuine concerns, but e-levy may not be the option or may not be the way to solve it. I say this because we have prepared a budget. You are saying that you are going to get revenue, total revenue of about 100 billion Ghana cedis. Of this 100 billion Ghana cedis, e-levy is about 6.9 billion Ghana cedis. In fact, in the budget statement, you have projected oil revenue. And I've heard John Kuma when he was speaking, and he made a categorical statement that because of what is happening in Ukraine and America, Ukraine and Russia, oil prices have shot up to 105 US dollars per barrel. I acknowledge, but it is not all negative for us as a country. Ghana also, I mean, we have access to crude oil, and obviously we sell this crude oil in the international market. In the budget statement, we use a floor of $70 to $75 per barrel. So clearly there's a rainfall. And from our calculation, you are going to get a rainfall of approximately 350 million US dollars over the period if this continues. And if this continues, that alone, the total revenue, additional revenue you are going to have is about 3.5 billion Ghana cedis, which to me is more than half of the e-levy revenues. So why is it that government is always using e-levy to blackmail the people of Ghana? I see this as a state blackmail. Because
but Dr. Forsing, this comment was made by the Speaker. But this comment was made by the Speaker and not the Finance Ministry.
No, but Speaker is saying he's hearing. He's hearing. And this is not the first time I'm hearing this. I've heard government ministers say that without the e-levy, they will not be able to, supply fertilizers. We've heard the road minister saying that without the e-levy, they will not be able to pay road contractors. We heard the finance minister himself saying that without the e-levy, they will not be able to pay common fund. But you are collecting 100 billion US dollars.
I guess the question I'm asking is that on this particular matter of the salaries not being paid in 3 months, the Speaker himself offered that information. Are you suggesting that the Speaker has been deceived by government sources?
That's what I'm saying, that Speaker did not say that this is what he's seen. He said that he has been informed, or his information is that we may not be in a position to pay our salaries the next 3 months. From what I see, sitting by the numbers and looking at the numbers, I don't foresee that.
So you disagree with the Speaker?
The revenue, the budget has two sides, expenditure and revenue. Government must also be responsible enough to cut some discretionary expenditures. Assuming in the same period that we are in, the private jet is still flying, expenditures are still happening, discretionary expenditures are still ongoing. So why don't we cut those ones? And always we are concentrating on a tax policy and a particular tax policy. There's a limit in which this economy can survive on taxes. Yes, let me put this on record. We in the minority has worked with the government to approve all tax policies in the budget other than the e-levy. And we have said the only one we have problems with is the e-levy. But any other tax policy or government policy, we've worked with them to approve it. So they should not use the e-levy to blackmail us. I see this clearly as a state blackmail, and that should stop. They should do what is
I
right.
want you to.
If there is a problem, come out and tell us exact problem so that we can all help you to fix it.
No, but you
the
have
problem
to,
for me is expenditure and not revenue.
But you have to clarify that when you say you see this as state blackmail, but this didn't come from the mouth of a government official. It came from, well, I mean, the speaker technically is, but he's a speaker. I mean, he independently made this pronouncement by himself.
But he's not the only one saying this.
But on the salary question,
and I gave you examples. The health minister saying the same, another minister, defense minister saying without it they can't be able to survive. Everybody saying the same.
Yeah, but on the salary question,
the speaker relies on the formation that has been given to him by state.
But I haven't heard anybody say salaries will be affected. In fact, if you listen to John Kuma, he is categorical that it's not the case that in the next 3 months salaries won't be paid. He said salaries will definitely be paid, and that maybe is in the long term that it may be inevitable if you don't fix the revenue challenges. So government is actually not saying what the speaker is saying.
Evans, if you ask me, my answer is simple. If government is going to have a difficulty in paying wages and salaries, government must as well be considerate enough to cut those discretionary expenditures that they are enjoying. It should start from the office of the president. It should move to the executive, other executives. It should move to parliament. All of us should be the ones to sacrifice first, and not the ordinary government worker, not the teacher, not the nurse. We should sacrifice first. We are the leaders, and that is what I want to see. So, for instance, if government says that without the e-levy, this is going to happen, they can. E-levy is only 6.9 billion. I've told you the windfall that we are going to get on the back of the oil prices going up at the international market. It's about 3.5 billion Ghana cedis. That alone is more than half of the e-levy. So please, let them not use e-levy to blackmail us. And I repeat, I see this as a state blackmail, and that should stop. They should rather look into expenditures, and the areas that they believe they can cut, they should cut it accordingly.
Very finally, before I bring back John Kuma says that, I mean, what the speaker had said is one of the reasons why there must be bipartisan cooperation on the issues about the revenue measures, including the e-levy. Are you ready to cooperate if this comes back to the House?
I think it is one, the e-levy is still in Parliament, so it is not out of Parliament. We're only waiting on the government to decide when they would take it. But we in the minority, our position remains unchanged. Our position is that this e-levy is tax on people's pocket. E-levy is a tax that is regressive and punitive. We do not believe that this tax should exist. We have said oftentimes, and I repeat here, that it's tax designed in a way that will punish the poor man, and we don't believe it. We've offered different suggestions to the government. We've said to the government that don't tax pensions, don't tax savings, don't tax bank accounts. This is what you are trying to do. But we believe that there are low-hanging fruits out there that we can sit together and find them out and be able to implement them in a bipartisan manner. Government is not listening to us. Why is it that they only concentrate on e-levy? We've pointed out that, yes, we can introduce a taxation of economic rent, identify the businesses that are actually making it big in our economy because of government creating an enabling environment in that sector. So let us identify them and tax them properly. For example, in the same telco industries, they are making so much money on the back of this mobile money. So why don't you consider increasing the corporate tax that you tax these companies benefiting from this mobile money industry, if indeed that is what you are looking for? That will mean that you are taxing the income, not the transaction. Income. So the ordinary person will not be the one that is going to happen, that is going to suffer. The incidence of that particular tax will not be on the ordinary Ghanaian, but it will be on the businesses that are actually collecting that economic rent from the ordinary Ghanaian.
Okay, Mr. John Kuma, he says that one of the grounds that may elicit their cooperation is if they see that the executive and the government is showing that you are cutting expenditure and waste, and that we must see this first in your actions, show us that you really understand and that you are cutting your own cost. Then maybe we can have a cooperation on the matter. What's your response to that?
Yes, thank you. Government has been very firm about that. In fact, if you heard the announcement since January in the first quarter. The Minister of Finance indicated that all discretionary expenditures shall be cut by 20%. And government is very committed to that. So we are not just talking about the revenue measures, but we are also making sure that expenditures are also going to be cut by 20%. So government is committed to that. The issue of the workers, government workers going to be paid, even in COVID when it was so difficult. I mean, some countries laid off public workers and they couldn't pay them, but Ghana stayed faithfully to workers and paid every worker in Ghana even in those difficult times. So, like I said, there's no imminent threat not to pay workers at the end of the month in this country. As far as I know, workers are going to receive their salaries as we have known. But the issue of what the Speaker has said for me is a genuine concern. We know that for us to be able to meet our expenditure targets, we must also meet our revenue target. And when people say that e-levy, if we don't pass it, will lead to other consequences, and my brother and friend says that he doesn't agree. Well, everybody interprets things differently. I have heard many people say that the alternative to not passing e-levy will be going to an IMF program. And we all know that when you go for an IMF program, your first obligation as a conditionality will be to cut many of your social expenditures, like your free SHS, your NAPCO, and many other things that people have referred to, that if we don't pass e-levy, we may not be able to get those support. It's not because of what revenues we are getting from e-levy, it's because of the consequences of what we may have to go through in the absence of that revenue. I also don't agree with Dr. Atoforsen that e-levy is a regressive tax, and I think that e-levy is a very fair tax that is seeking to address modern trends in the economy, like digitalization. We know that the volumes of transactions on digital space has increased tremendously, and if you are a government, that is where you have to look at in terms of your tax system to be able to introduce a new tax handle that allows you to rope in much more revenues in that angle. So there's nothing wrong. Yes, you are asking us to tax corporations more in terms of their corporate tax. That's an option we can look to. But that means that taxing the same people high taxes. You get it. The argument and advice has been broaden the tax base, bring in everybody, every Ghanaian. Let's stop this ordinary Ghanaian language, because ordinary Ghanaians are also Ghanaians. And Ghana must be built by the poor and the rich. The responsibility of building Ghana is not for the rich alone. It's also for the poor. We are all proud Ghanaians. So let everybody contribute to their quota. And e-levy recognizes the sensitive group on this MOMO level and excludes up to 100 transactions cedis a day, so that those who are very, very on the low end will not be covered as far as e-levy is concerned. So I think it's a very fair tax system that will help us modernize and introduce a new modern tax handle on the trends of the world as far as digitalization is concerned. And we must all support it. And I think the Speaker's call is a genuine call. Let's look within Ghana on our domestic front. Let's support the revenue measures of government and position our country in a way that we do not threaten the financial position of the country. And I think it's about time we all listen to the advice from the Speaker and reduce the level of partisanship in this discussion.
The Speaker says he has it, or somebody has informed him. Is it did he get a briefing from government?
No. In fact, I'm not aware of such. Like I told you where I sit, I don't see such imminent danger at all. Ghana has been consistent with our international obligations, even our interest payments, our salary compensation, salaries payment at the end of the month. Workers have been paid on time in January. Even when workers were striking, Ghana government paid them. So I don't see where this imminent danger is coming from. But I agree with him that if we don't put our house together, we could face such a situation in the long term. And I totally support that we overcome this difficult revenue measure situation and begin to speak one language that unites us as a republic and position Ghana to raise enough revenue domestically to build our country.
So on that note, then, on the e-levy question, when is government moving it on the floor then for a proper consideration?
I think as soon as possible. This issue of consultations, when many Ghanaians didn't understand what the e-levy was about, and the fact that the whole global economy is changing because of even COVID. There's much more economic activity electronically than even the face-to-face transactions we know. And so it is important to explain to Ghanaians the need to introduce a new tax handle that reflects modern trends in the economy. And we know that volumes of MTN transactions have increased from just within 2 years from 90 billion cities to about 900 billion cities. So that shows the growth. And we all have to look at how best government can be supported to get revenues from that space to do critical things for our country, like paying our contractors, creating jobs for the youth through the Youth Start program, and then also helping to reduce our debt, because we cannot sustain the levels of debt that we have in the country. We have to begin to look for more quieted revenue sources to build the country.
I mean, you say it's coming as soon as possible. Is that to suggest there's no firm timeline yet for when it comes for consideration?
Yes, as I speak to you, I don't have specific timeline, but I know it's as soon as possible.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you, Dr. Ato Forsing. Thank you, John Kuma, who is the Deputy Finance Minister there. So you've heard it. The Speaker says, if nothing happens, government may be unable to pay your salary in 3 months. The Deputy Finance Minister clarified that. He says there's no immediate danger as far as your salary is concerned, but in the long term, it may be inevitable. What do you make of that? 055-11-11997 as we move into Ghana Connect.